In today's video, we are of course going to be taking a big time look at now Tropical Storm Debby, which is expected to become Hurricane Debby either today or tomorrow. We're also going to be diving into the model guidance as we begin to shift our attention more down the road towards the overall upcoming pattern, additional tropical threats, among other things, as this storm is basically ongoing and over the coming week will be said and done. I do want to update you guys. I have been saying now for a few days this storm could be historic, and I think it will be. Before that, I was always indicating that I thought this storm could be very major, and all of that has turned out to obviously be correct. Now the National Hurricane Center is calling for over 20 inches of rainfall for coastal areas of Georgia and South Carolina, including Savannah, Georgia, and maybe even approaching Charleston, South Carolina, so some bigger metropolitan areas. Definitely going to go down as a memorable storm, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons. Definitely going to be a very, very impactful one. I don't want you guys to think that the impact stopped there whatsoever. Florida here, we're seeing storm surge, pretty intense storm surge, winds, tornado threat from a lot of these cells in this storm, and even flooding down there. This should extend all the way up the East Coast. We're expecting major amounts of rainfall for all of these areas, and I'm going to really break that down today. But again, there is other things that we're talking about throughout the United States in the upcoming pattern in today's video. As we take a look here at our satellite imagery, we can tell that this storm has some very nice structure. We could tell there is some rotation ongoing somewhere in this area. It's not too intense yet, still a very slow moving storm, but we could kind of get this type of a structure to it, which is going to be indicative of a tropical cyclone. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. We already knew that, obviously. We can tell that some of our tallest clouds are kind of in this corridor here. They have been impacting at times kind of the Tampa Bay area, further south like Cape Coral here, in areas of kind of the west coast of Florida there. Again, tornado threat is going to be pretty elevated today, so we are watching that very closely as they tend to happen in these outer bands and even some of the inner bands of these tropical systems. So that is definitely going to be at the forefront of our attention as well. We tell that in the heart of the storm, we also have some tall clouds in here, and wouldn't be surprised to see this one get a bit of a eye wall going before reaching landfall. It does look like it's trying to put something together in here. I would say it might even pop up right there in the middle. We see a kind of shallower spot right there. That could be where this tries to originate that eye wall. And that could happen as we reach potentially category 1 or 2 status before reaching Florida here. This storm has rapidly intensified beyond what was expected and has basically exceeded expectations every step of the way, unfortunately. With all that being said, let's just move into the upcoming pattern as a whole. We obviously will see some of the data from this storm in here, but we also want to pay attention to the entire United States. Here's that tropical cyclone in the western Gulf of Mexico. We see storminess really prevailing up and down the East Coast, though. Not just this storm, we see from Florida to Maine, storms are ongoing. We also see that a lot of our Rocky Mountain range is seeing some showers and thunderstorms in this pocket as well. Definitely something to pay attention to. Let's just move forward. Let's take a look at Monday on August 5th. And by the afternoon, we can see that this storm has made landfall as a stronger storm around that big bend of Florida, impacting now northern Florida, southern Georgia, even up through South Carolina and North Carolina. We are seeing impacts again. We've talked about it for a few days now, but this storm's impacts are going to very widely be spread out because this is just a larger area, storm. It's just taking up more space here, and they do vary in size for sure. This one happens to be on the larger side. We do see some overall storms happening across some of your northern plains, upper Midwest, some of the Great Lakes, and even into the Northeast here. Definitely something to watch for. And we have continued showers and thunderstorms throughout some of the Rocky Mountain range. As we reach towards Tuesday afternoon on August 6th, this is when we reach kind of an interesting point in this storm. It can either stay over land here and hover near the coast but be over land, or it could pop back out to sea a little bit here before returning inland. Either way, this storm looks to intensify a little bit here off the East Coast and continue to bring just hammering these areas with heavy rainfall. Again, Georgia, South Carolina especially, but Florida through even into the Northeast like New England could be seeing inches and inches and inches of precipitation, unfortunately. We do see some heavier precipitation out ahead of this for some of the Great Lakes and the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic there. Definitely something to watch for. We can expect heavy rainfall, like I mentioned, but also winds are going to be a factor by this point, as this storm is still quite strong. Let's keep going toward Wednesday, August 7th, and what we see is this storm on this model does pop back out to sea. We see it's a 989 millibar low pressure center, so it's intensifying, and we continue to see heavier rainfall prevailing, not only just around this storm, but again, pretty widespread throughout the southeast and mid-Atlantic regions here. We do see continued Rocky Mountain and Northern Plains activity, even extending north of the border here into the Rockies of Canada and the Plains of Canada there. So this is a pretty widespread area of storms there out west as well. Let's take a look here at Thursday on August 8th, and we see that this storm has moved maybe a few miles as it's reached now to southern North Carolina here. Still bringing heavy rainfall to South Carolina, up through North Carolina where it's at, Virginia, the Delmarva, DC, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and even southern New England here, seeing heavy rainfall due to this system on Thursday, August 8th. Again, winds should still be a factor, some storm surge, perhaps in coastal areas, and definitely heavy downpours, and even some severe weather, including tornadoes, could continue to be possible. Friday here on August 9th, we see it's located over southeastern Virginia there. We do continue to see some showers and thunderstorms throughout the southern Rockies into some of the plains and even the upper Midwest here. Continuing, we do see that a lot of your mid-Atlantic and northeast areas are continuing to see flooding rainfall due to this by Friday the 9th. Here's Saturday the 10th, and finally this thing just races out to sea, so it really picks up some steam here and starts to move quickly out to sea. While southern New England still sees some precipitation from this one, it should be shorter lived than your southern counterparts because that storm speed does pick up, thankfully. We do see that there is some continued pockets of thunderstorms ongoing here for some of the plains for Saturday the 10th as well. Let's take this towards Sunday the 11th, and once again there's some showers left behind here as my drawing gets massive there. We see showers continuing here for some of the southeast, and then for some of the four corner states through the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and even into the mid-Atlantic there. Sunday could be quite stormy. Monday the 12th here. Again, East Coast this time of year is almost always a threat to see thunderstorms daily. We do see that the Rockies through some of our plains and Midwest areas are seeing showers and thunderstorms continuing, as kind of their heart of their severe weather season is like the later summer time frame, July, August, the further north you go towards the Canadian border. So not too surprising to see more activity over the past few weeks here. Let's take this towards Tuesday on August 13th. And we see thunderstorms from the four corner states through a lot of your plains, and it kind of just arches over the Midwest and Great Lakes and back down through this mid-Atlantic area here, where we do actually have some thunderstorms possible here from the Gulf Coast, a little bit up the East Coast and Appalachian Mountain Range here for West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina. That's our final day here on this model run. As far as our European AI model here, which we're going to look at the tropics, we do see that outside of our current tropical storm Debby, we do have 1, 2, 3 waves out there right now. This one looks to kind of move into the southern Caribbean a little bit. These ones are on their way, and we're going to have to see what this model is calling for, but interesting things lie ahead, I would say, in the tropics department. We see that one moves into the southern Caribbean, and it kind of wants to get going there in the southern Gulf of Mexico, never really gets any steam going. And then the rest of these all look, I'm going to replay it, but they all look to kind of head in here, which is just a dangerous path. You want to see them curving way out to sea, but we're just not seeing that here. Look at the general flow. We see it all kind of aiming towards the United States and the Central America areas as well as the Caribbean. That is kind of worst case scenario here, heading through August 20th. So from now to August 20th, if the tropical flow primarily is flowing where those two arrows are going, that is hugely concerning, to say the least, as we're in and approaching the height of hurricane season. This is not what you want to see. Now, as we take a look at the total precipitation throughout the United States here, we can see that there is some areas experiencing some heavy precipitation outside of the tropics. That's primarily going to be for the Rockies of Canada and the United States, some of the plain states, Midwest, Great Lakes here as well. But let's draw our attention towards the East Coast, where some really bad rainfall could be occurring. I think the good news here is that we're seeing a little bit less in terms of those historic amounts. You know, on this particular model, there is some very, very high amounts here. It's a little bit less widespread though, right around 15 to 20 inches of rainfall. And you know, that could border on historic. I don't want to downplay it. That is quite a bit, but we were seeing a much larger area experiencing this on previous model runs. It is really easy to get analysis paralysis though. And that can be problematic. And actually, that was kind of a little bit outdated. That didn't get the full run there. So this is the 0Z run. We have even less pink. So maybe getting a little bit worse here. The models are going back and forth, but somewhere between 10 and 20 inches, maybe even a little bit more, seems to be a likelihood for areas of Georgia, South Carolina, maybe even North Carolina. The reds in particular are 2 to 5 inches, which is already a whole lot and can cause flooding concerns. The browns, which we see widespread from Florida all the way up through Massachusetts and everywhere in between here, as you can see, is 5 to 10 inches of precipitation, which is hugely concerning by itself. And then we see blues scattered about throughout Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, New Jersey there, New York, and Long Island as well. That is where we're experiencing 10 to 15 inches of precipitation over the next 10 days. So an average of 1 to 1.5 inches per day over the next 10 days. And to make matters even worse, as that staggering number already should make it clear that things are looking pretty bad in the rainfall department. But to make matters worse, most of that is not coming over the course of the whole 10-day period. Most of that is coming in a much shorter time frame, such as 4 or 5 days. So much more flooding implications because it's not such a long-term rainfall event. We do see that this storm is just going to absolutely batter the East Coast, again, from the southeast through New England. Look out for flooding. We even see some magentas indicating 15 to 20 inches of rainfall possible throughout portions of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Truly, this storm looks a whole lot worse than a typical tropical storm or category 1 or 2 would usually look. That's why, you know, sometimes people base things only on the ranking of the storm, and it should be ranked on the potential impacts, not just the storm's intensity. Obviously, storm's intensity can be an indicator of how bad things can be, mostly wind, but rainfall can vary greatly throughout the different levels. We've seen historic tropical depressions or tropical storms bring just crazy amounts of rainfall, and we've seen hurricanes that don't bring quite as much. So it definitely varies on other factors. So it's always important to just take all of these storms very, very seriously. Here is the precipitation anomalies, and we can see above average amounts for some of the Rockies and Plains and Midwest here, below average throughout the West, South Central, some of the Midwest and Ohio Valley here as well. But the East Coast, I hope nobody's surprised here because I think I made it clear enough, but severely above average precipitation over the next 15 days is expected, especially for the Southeast, but really it should stretch all the way through the Mid-Atlantic and even New England. With these really, really high amounts of precipitation. And you guys have been asking for it. Here I am delivering. Here's the temperature anomalies forecast, which we've kind of redacted from the forecast, but we're adding it back here. We do see a cool down on the way that we've been kind of discussing here. That's going to be starting mid next week to late next week. So here's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We do see the blues kind of entering a lot of your central and eastern states here. Should be some really, really nice relief from some of the heat that we've been having this summer. So I hope everybody's looking forward to this. We actually do get a little bit of a second one there for the early week after that. So Monday the 12th, Tuesday the 13th. And then eventually by late that week, it does look to potentially come to an end. This is an ensemble model here, as you can see on the top left corner of your screen. And that means there's multiple members and we're taking the mean average here. So as they start to really get far out, they start to spread in different directions with their opinions. And that's when we get this kind of averaged outlook is what I call it. And we're not really getting any clear indicators anymore. But for now, cooler weather is expected ahead for the East. Don't expect it to be cold, but shouldn't be quite as hot, thankfully. Here's your spaghetti model guidance. Nothing too shocking or striking here. We, in general, have a good grip of what to expect. Let's see. We got to update it to Debby, and we get definitely a whole lot of craziness here. But in general, the consensus is something like this. There is a couple that take it way further inland, but the consensus overall is something along these lines and then moving back out to sea. I will keep you guys updated with this, though, because we can tell there's a wide variety of options here, and definitely something that needs to be kind of watched pretty closely here. Again, as we're switching this to Tropical Storm Debby. We do have a few models here that want to take us to Category 1. I'm pretty shocked none want to take it to Category 2, as this thing is just really intensifying quickly. We're already at about 65 miles per hour, I'm pretty sure, with the wind. So we're getting there. We're getting pretty close. But it is expected to drop off with landfall, obviously, and then kind of hover at this weaker tropical storm status for quite a while as it continues to batter the East Coast. It should maintain a somewhat intense storm all the way through, unfortunately. Here is the cone forecast from the National Hurricane Center. As you can see, again, 65 mile per hour sustained winds moving at 13 miles per hour to the north-northwest. We can see that this one is currently expected to be a hurricane by later today, certainly by 8 a.m. Monday morning tomorrow, by landfall there along the Big Bend, where we do have hurricane warnings up in the reds. In the pinks, we have hurricane watches. And then in the blues, we have tropical storm warnings there. So we can see this does expect to remain a tropical storm throughout portions of Georgia, South Carolina, eventually turning into a tropical depression, likely over North Carolina around Friday morning time frame. So this storm is going to be a slow mover. We're going to watch it all week, just kind of hover around. Look at that. I mean, it's going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So between now on Sunday and Friday, way later this week, it's only going to move through Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, into North Carolina. We're going to be dealing with this one for a while, unfortunately. And then here's the total rainfall from the National Hurricane Center. Look at this. The light greens is 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. Dark greens are 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Yellows are 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. Light oranges is 6 to 8 inches of rainfall. Your dark orange is 8 to 12 inches of rainfall. Your lighter reds there, your cherry red I should call it, is 12 to 16 inches of rainfall for portions of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina there, widespread. Your dark reds, which are pretty widespread, again, covering Savannah, Charleston, two very, very large areas there. That is 16 to 20 inches of precipitation. And then your pinks, which is over Savannah and very, very close to Charleston, is 20 to 30 inches of rainfall expected. Huge, huge numbers. Truly would bring a devastating flooding event if we got anywhere close to this amount of rainfall. Very, very unfortunate stuff. Anyway, we do upload every single day, and I fully intend on keeping you guys up to date with this storm alongside other storms that are sure to come this season, as we do expect a truly historic hurricane season overall. Obviously, we're getting off to a historic start, so all signs are still pointing in that direction, alongside the overall dynamics at play throughout the tropics, where things look extremely favorable down the road. Definitely something we're all going to be keeping our eyes on. I encourage you to hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.